Hello. I believe it says I don't know if you can hear me, but it says you're muted on my end.
Hi, better.
There we go. Yeah.
Oh, finally got it. Sorry, I literally just downloaded Zoom. Um, Still working out the kinks, but we got there.
You're good. How is your day going, Tim?
Good. It's good. It's been busy. Hopefully getting to the end of it. Johnny might be joining us in a moment. His kids have been quite unwell this morning, so he's looking after them for now. But yeah, it's been a busy day. Just trying to restock all the shelves at the cafe. But yeah,
Yeah.
apart from that, pretty good. I mean, yours is right at the start, isn't it?
What?
Your day is just starting.
Yeah, this is true. I've been
Yeah.
up for a few hours. It's funny that you were like, oh, like an earlier time would work better. In my mind, I was like, I don't know, but this morning I woke up just so early, and I was just like ready to go. So I was like, actually, I'm really
Nice.
glad.
Just so psyched for this call. So
So
pumped for it.
so pumped. I was just up and at 'em, brewing all the coffees to make sure they're tasting good. And well, don't worry, they are.
Great. Perfect. That was going to be my next question.
I know you were worried. You no,
Have you tried all of them now?
yes. Thankfully, I've been able to try them all, and just too excited to kind of just go down the rabbit hole of each coffee.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've had a decent amount of Sebastian Ramirez coffees, and so it was just
Mhm.
an absolute delight to get them again. Very much so. But yeah, just to begin, talking about full court press,
Yeah.
and I actually, if I remember correctly, I just found y'all on Instagram or something, and
Yeah.
that's, to be honest, that's kind of how I find any roaster at this
Mhm.
time.
Yeah.
um, it used to be years ago I would like look up the best roasters in a city. But nowadays I just Instagram. It's everything Instagram.
Yeah.
But yeah, tell us, kind of full court press's beginnings, and even you let me know a little bit about you, and also how did you find your way to being at full court press as well? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So it was started in 2013 by a man called Matt North. He'd been in the industry for years and years and years, doing all sorts. Um, he ran and still runs lots of like coffee events, does a lot of competitions. He still is very often head judge at a lot of European competitions. Um, but he wanted to open a cafe, so did that in 2013. So he was one of the first specialty cafes in the southwest of England. There's only places like Kelowna and Smalls.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're pretty big in UK. But they opened around the same time. Um, but yeah, it was just like the first properly focused specialty coffee shop in Bristol. Um, and I mean, the the business model hasn't really changed that much. Like things have changed a lot since then, but like we basically just do coffee. We have a few cakes, but there's like no food, nothing else. It's very, very focused, which is great. I don't have to make any paninis anymore, which is yeah, it's delightful. Um,
Yeah.
but his first lease that he signed was only for 7 years. And he only ever intended to have the shop for 7 years.
Mm.
And then those 7 years rolled around in 2020. Um, and he was talking about closing the shop, how he intended, and everyone was like, "Don't you fucking dare! We'll 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 hunt you down if you close the shop." But um, he didn't want to own it anymore. So he initially sold half the business to Jonny, who should turn up in the next few minutes.
Yeah.
But then eventually sold the other half to three other members of staff. So Jonny has been at FCP for like 5 or 6 years, owned it for four, maybe.
Oh,
I don't know. I'll have to ask him. But then he sold it to three other members of staff, Rosie, Chris, and Lawrence. And at that time is when so Chris was roasting um, in around London at the time. He had previously worked at FCP, then gone to roast, but then came back and opened up the roastery.
uh,
And it was quite a good time because that was during COVID, during all our lockdowns. So it kind of just kept a bit of life in the business. Meant that we could still provide coffee to people around Bristol. So Matt used to cycle, do deliveries. I think Matt and Jonny both did bike deliveries around Bristol for
yeah.
months, possibly even years. But like, yeah, they used to just cycle around the centre of Bristol. They covered thousands of miles over the couple of years. It was pretty impressive. Um, but yeah, the roastery was initially 2 doors down from the cafe, which was lovely. But we've since moved to this lovely railway arch because we just completely outgrew the space. Um, when did I? So I joined almost 2 years ago. 2 years ago in a couple of weeks, I joined FCP, and I'd been working in other shops for like full time for a year and a half, maybe before I joined FCP.
Mhm.
Um, Basically, I graduated university in 2021.
Mm.
No, 2020, right, like during all COVID and all the lockdowns and everything. And I was like, I don't really know what to do. But I had a part-time job in a nice cafe in Bath where I studied. Um, and yeah, they asked if I wanted to come back once all the lockdowns lifted. And I was like, I don't really know what else I'm doing. So I went back, worked there, and I just absolutely loved it. And then I moved to a couple of other places, and then got a job in a place in Bristol. And yeah, one day walked into, like, obviously at FCP, the cafe is such a friendly place.
Yeah.
You really get to know everyone who's coming in, especially if you go in regularly. And I went in one day and yeah, I was just asked if I wanted a job because someone was leaving. They were just like, you want to come and work here? And I was like, yeah, I think I do. Yeah, and that's it.
Wow.
Yeah, I haven't looked back since. It's been great.
Well, real quick, just a few follow-up questions. So first, you had mentioned that I believe, is it Mike or Matt? I'm so sorry, I already forgot.
Matt,
Matt.
yeah, Matt.
So you said Matt started a cafe or something in the southwest of England. Was that
Mhm.
like around Cornwall or somewhere
Oh
else?
no, it's in Britain. So that's Full Court Press. He opened Full Court Press in 2013.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, Bristol's still just about the southwest.
I love it. I always forget where it is, to be honest. I've spent some time in England, but I haven't been all around still yet. And when you say that they biked all around for coffee orders, does that mean they made the coffee and then biked it to someone's house?
Oh, just roasted coffee, just
Just
like
roasted
bags of coffee.
coffee. Okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was about
So
to
just
say, like,
yeah, they're very talented. Yeah, they just carry trays and
I was like,
no
wow.
hands. Yeah,
I
very
was
impressive bloke.
I was
Yeah.
about to take inspiration from that and wonder if maybe we should start doing that. Um,
No,
and
if you've never been to Bristol as well, Bristol is very hilly, so it's
Ooh,
even more impressive. It
yeah.
would be even more impressive with if they were hand delivering like hot coffees, but no, it was just roasted coffee in a bag.
I think you should just start like saying it as a rumor, just being like, "Oh yeah, like one time, that's all we
Yeah,
did." Just really,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
How
know,
it started.
yeah, people are gonna start, having way more respect
Mhm.
for it.
Yeah, because no one respects us at the moment. Yeah, it's beautiful. The only way's up.
Like yeah. I'm done. And then you mentioned that I think you were working at a cafe in Bath, right?
Yeah.
So are you familiar, and or was it, because I don't know if Round Hill has a cafe. Was it Round Hill, or did it serve Round Hill?
No. So it was a part-time job in Bath. We did occasionally serve Round Hill. Round Hill are just a roastery; they don't have any shops.
Yeah.
But then I did move to another cafe in a very small village, a small town called Froome.
Okay.
And we used Round Hill as our house account, and that's how I got to know the guys at Round Hill.
Yeah.
It was
It's Ben who's the owner, right?
Ben is their wholesale manager. The owner's a guy called Eddie.
Ah, okay, okay.
Yeah,
So, well, Ben is super great. I've been able to have one or two conversations with him, and just
yeah,
so pleasant to chat with.
yeah,
I get lucky, doing this for my job, because I get to have conversations with people like you, and we just have so much fun. I'm
yeah,
just
for
happy to
sure.
be here.
Yeah, he's really lovely. We actually yeah, we met because we both went for the job that he now has at Round Hill. Like this was like 3 years ago or something. We both went for the same job, and I'd been in the industry for like a year, and he'd been doing it for like 10. So obviously, he was the right decision. But I was still bitter about it when I first met him. Um, but he was far too nice to be angry at for too long.
Well, I'm glad that you came around to.
Yeah, yeah. He won me over. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Well, one really interesting fact that you had told me when we had first chatted on the phone was that FCP was a multi roaster to begin with. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so kind of, just in brief, kind of talk about what that was like. And I actually don't even remember now at what time you guys then started roasting, and or if you were there for that transition.
Mhm.
But nonetheless, kind of what was that like in regards to being a multi roaster in which your output of all your product is truly coming from other roasters, and that's
Mm.
really it, to actually then sourcing and or simply just buying coffee and or then roasting it of these producers that you're working with or whatnot, and now you're the ones who you're buying less from roasters, and on one end, I can only imagine that's like a bummer, so to speak, from that
Mhm.
roaster's perspective, and even from yours, in regards to you've developed really great relationships with the roasters you've worked with,
Yeah.
and yeah, just kind of what that was like. Yeah.
So we haven't solely transitioned to just serving our coffee. So we are still a multi-roast cafe.
Hmm.
Um, we will have an espresso and a filter roasted by us on at any one time, but then we always have an espresso and a filter roasted by someone else. Um, yeah, it's really nice. I think we've all got far more empathetic towards roasters.
Mm.
Um, it's like sometimes you get a coffee that you're just like, oh, I'm not quite sure about this, but then you realize that there's like 1,000 steps before it's hit the roaster where something may have gone wrong. Um, or it may have just been like a small mistake from a roaster, but like especially on our scale, we can't afford to be throwing away full roasts if they're not like absolutely perfect. So like it happens. Um, so I think there's a bit more empathy towards roasters, which I think I don't know if it's the same in the States, but there's a lot of in the in the UK, a lot of baristas are like, if they can't get coffee tasting good, they'll immediately blame the roaster rather than looking at what exactly what they're doing. So I think it's nice to just sort of like bridge that gap a little bit. But also being a multi roaster and roasting our own coffee, I think it really keeps us. It stops us getting too uh involved in our own roasting. Like we could end up just sort of like calibrating our palates to exactly how we roast, but then it's sort of skewing off in a direction that maybe we're not totally happy with if we compare it to someone else. So having these constant calibrations from like really, really high quality roasters, and we can like try our roast next to someone else and be like, we're either doing really well on this coffee or like we have areas that we need to work on. Um, yeah, I think it's been nice. It was much, much easier just being a multi-roaster cafe. Much easier. Far less to worry about. You let everyone else worry about all the stress of ordering green coffee and making sure that it's used up in time. And yeah, but it's fun. And it's like I'm I'm very new to roasting. I've only been doing it since like the start of this year. Um, I thought there would be some more transferable knowledge. Um, I I like to think I know quite a lot about coffee, and I thought there would be a bit more that I would be able to apply to roasting. But it's like its own little, it's like a little mystic art, and yeah, I just do what I'm told at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I started my coffee career in LA, and at
Hmm.
one point there, I got to work for a roastery. And I had been working there for about a year when I was kind of on the dock to start learning how to roast.
Hmm.
And to be honest, I eventually, had to move back to St. Louis. Things happened with my family, and I was like, well, okay, I'm moving. And to be honest, I was not bummed that I didn't learn how to roast, only because as a production assistant and just doing everything else except roasting, I just looked over there and I was like, man, that's its own thing. And
Hmm.
just the idea of just standing at a roaster and following profiles or just setting them or anything of the sort, I genuinely was like, that's just so much more in my mind that I was like, I don't even, I don't want to touch it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's always what's going on. Um, yeah, and it's always terrifying. Like if a roast starts going badly, and you're like, this is not looking good. Always nervous about ending up wasting. Like, well, at the moment we're only wasting like 800 grams of coffee at a time. So the consequences aren't too bad. But
Uh-huh.
like bigger roasters, like messing up 25 kilos of coffee must be heartbreaking.
Yeah, that's very scary. I, I truly can only imagine
Hmm.
what's going through the roaster's mind when that happens, and you're like, oh, okay, so that's all gone.
Yeah, yeah. It's mostly profanities, to be honest.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, that's normally what's going through my mind.
I'm dying. Well, if I remember, let's see, you guys roast on is it a stronghold?
Yeah, S7.
Stronghold S7. So I think you are the second roaster that I've ever tasted on a stronghold.
Hmm.
When you guys started roasting, was stronghold the first choice? Did you go through the list of all the roasters to figure it out, or yeah, how did you come to that conclusion?
I'm not 100% sure. Wasn't I wasn't working at FCP at the time when the roastery started. Um, but I know it was because of the location, the cafe's in the center of Bristol in the old city. Um, uh, and it's like the where the roastery was 2 doors down, very small place, and electric only. So we needed an electric roaster. We also needed a small roaster, and then also the emissions were quite strict for the Bristol city centre. So Stronghold comes with its own pre-packaged like filter unit that the roaster sits on top of. It's actually bigger than the roaster itself, but that like filters out most of the nasties. So it keeps emissions pretty good as well. Um, so I think that was like it sort of ticked all the boxes that we needed um, for opening a roastery so close to the cafe, so central, and also keeping it quite manageable size.
Mm, yeah. So, like I said, this is our first time actually working with a roaster. Who's roasting on this roaster? So, in brief, can you kind of explain to people what the Stronghold does that other roasters don't, and or why it is different?
Yeah, it's so it's a hot air halogen roaster. Um, so uh, two it has two main ways of heating the coffee. Um, it's got hot air, like you would have with um, other like fluid bed roasters. If you look at things like Typhoons, which are other, I think they could be electric and gas, but they're fully fluid bed roasters, fully hot air roasters. But the strongholds also have halogen bulbs, which um, heat the heat the coffee through radiation.
Mhm.
Um, so like when you're initially reading about coffee roasting, it's either you're heating by convection or conduction. So like drum roasters, conduction's beans touching the outside of the drum. Convection is the hot air that's being pumped between the beans.
Mm,
Um, but the stronghold um, also has this halogen. We find it to be a, a, a more like gentle heating, or like a more gentle energy source than the hot air. Um, so it tends to give us some like slightly finer control of our profiles.
mm,
Um, and we've also found that with some coffees, we can make changes to halogen around first crack, which is like a big no-no with like other roasters. Like you don't touch it like 45 seconds before first crack, 45 seconds after first crack. And with some coffees, that's absolutely true. You don't want to be messing with it. But we have found with a decent proportion of coffee that we can make very small changes that just allow us to like really fine tune our roasts.
wow, that, that's very exciting to be honest. In no way do I kind of understand the world of roasting, but the idea of being able to do more
Mm-hmm.
in the roast and or be able to control things a little bit more differently, I assume is a lovely thing. Yeah.
Well, it's also the only thing that I've roasted on. So I don't really, I personally don't have a, a frame of reference to anything else. I like it, but then again, I might roast on something else and be like, what was I doing?
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, I'd love to kind of just now dive in a little bit with kind of each of the coffees that we've gotten from you, which is five amazing coffees for our
Yeah.
subscription. Um,
Hmm.
kind of starting with the ones that we used, like I kind of had mentioned to you, for our approachable uh, coffees for the most part. And, just to kind of begin with the Indonesia, which only a few
Hmm.
of, our subscribers get because we only have a couple people who actually get two of the approachable coffees.
Yeah.
I I loved it. It was I'm trying to remember if we've had any Indonesians this year. To be honest, I don't think we've served any and or had any for our subscriptions or anything. We may have, but I really don't think so. And so this is kind
Hmm.
of the first that we've kind of ever served, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I was very happy about it. You know, just your notes, and which is absolutely lovely, spot on
Hmm.
for each of the coffees, and same thing
That's
with
what we like
this
to hear.
cola, raspberry, and dates. I would honestly just switch how they were in my mouth when tasting.
Hmm.
Dates came first. I even wrote down raspberry syrup, um,
Hmm.
with cola, limeade, and like a raisin finish, and it was just absolutely delicious, super fun. So, how did you guys happen across an Indonesian coffee? I feel like that's a little less common to find.
Well, I mean, we get samples from many importers. We get them quite frequently, so we have the luxury of tasting a huge amount of coffee. We've literally been, we've got the new crop. We just tried it today, but the new crop of the Nestalato Omblegon
Yeah.
um, that you had in Chicago. Um, but we've just tried the new crop, and it's as wild as the last one. Um, but we just have uh, the luxury of trying a lot of coffee. So this one came from a Stucafina, the green coffee importer. We've tried stuff from Kerinci, the cooperative, quite a few times. But this year everything was just tasting so good. And even Obadiah in Edinburgh.
Yes.
So they got a different lot from the same cooperative. But yeah, everything this year has just been like so good. Oh, Johnny's just arrived. If you want to say hello.
Hey, Johnny, how you doing?
Hey David, how you doing? Good.
Doing great. It's
Nice.
I've been asking Tim all of the questions, obviously. So
Putting none of the answers.
he's been doing great. But yeah,
Yeah,
you know, we were just talking about the the Indonesian, but you know, since you've joined us, you know, in brief, you know, before we kind of keep going with coffee, you know, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you find yourself at FCP? And yeah, and then we'll keep going. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so FCP started as a multi-roaster coffee shop about 11 years ago. And I always worked in coffee part-time, and uh, my main thing was being a freelance photographer. Um, and yeah, uh, started FCP because I loved what they were doing, and then the founder, he moved on, and some of us just took it over. Um, Pretty cool. And then about 2020, we started roasting, um, which came out of the COVID lockdowns. Um, we were I was on our bicycles, delivering coffee all around Bristol, and we gained quite a big online customer base from that. And so we were sort of just doing that at the time because our cafe was closed. So
Mhm.
we were like, why don't we start roasting?
Mhm.
And and then yeah, got some loan money from the government for small businesses, and then went for it.
Well, it seems to be working.
Yeah, I mean, we love it, and we're not making much money, but we we yeah, definitely doing it for the love of it. So I don't
Wonderful.
think I don't think our approach is
Smart.
it's not financially responsible, but yeah, getting lots and lots of different coffees in uh, on a tiny roaster is
Mm.
yeah, it means we get to try lots of coffees, and our cafe has something different to offer every week, um, which is great for customers. But yeah. And it's
Wonderful.
good practice as well, like just profiling different coffees every week, and uh, yeah, tasting different things, and yeah, it's good fun.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, big fan of you guys. Hence why I'm sitting here drinking the El Ali style right now, and it's just
Nice.
absolutely a delight. Yeah, all the coffees I've been tasting great. And yeah, we were just talking about the Indonesian and kind of how you guys had gotten a hold of it. And Tim was mentioning, just getting samples from all the importers. And yeah, this Indonesian is just absolutely a delight. It's hard to come by for us, any and or good Indonesians. And so it was
Yeah,
yeah, it was wonderful that it's nice to chat with a roaster like you guys whose coffees have been good. And so when I'm asking for your guys' recommendations on things, you know it's a no-brainer when you guys are like, this is good. And it's like, great. Like, I don't I don't have to worry about sampling, so to speak. It's just like, yeah, I you guys know what you're doing very clearly. So just take your word for whatever. But
thanks,
yeah.
man. Yes,
Sometimes that doesn't feel like it, but yeah, good to be reassured.
yeah.
No, very much so. I brewed this coffee. We do a four pulse method at the cafe, and so I kind of do that for all of the coffees when I dial it in for a subscription. And I always grind on the Comandante, and I use just our faucet water, that's in the house, and which is probably 200 ppm or more. Actually, I don't know if I've ever tested it, to be honest, but came out at 3:30 and is absolutely delicious. Just first go, I was just like, this is great. It
Yeah, perfect.
was basically the
Yeah,
same thing for all of
none
them.
of us are particularly. We we're quite notorious for being dreadful with coffee brewing at home. Like I don't weigh anything. I use tap water at home. That's pretty. Bristol tap water is awful as well. Like it's so hard. Don't weigh anything. Rarely time things. You just spend so much time being like particular at the shop
Yeah,
that I like.
feels like work at home. Right?
Yeah, I just can't be asked. It's close enough. I actually use it. Didn't weigh anything for an aroma boy yesterday, and it was banging. It's so good. We have like a small obsession with these very little batch brewers called aroma boys. Um, they just make great coffee. I mean,
They're they're from the 70s, and they're made by milliliter, and they make one mug at a time.
yeah, they're so great though.
That sounds amazing. I'll definitely have to look into that. But yeah, so just kind of going back to this Indonesia, is this the first time that you guys have had an Indonesian? Is this like, what, we've had these guys before or whatnot? Yeah.
So I think this is our third or fourth year of buying from Kerinci. Last year we had the anaerobic honey process, and yeah, um, and yeah, we just find the processing is just really exceptional. Yeah, Sukafina, who import them, just always really reliable, and they're really transparent with what they do, and we love that. And yeah, I personally love Indonesian coffee, and we just contracted some more from a different region, uh, but
Yeah,
take a thing.
yeah, we get through a fair bit.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. It was an absolute delight, like I mentioned. And yeah, the coffee is just super tasty. It was nice to find that this coffee was very smooth and just, I don't know, it kind of just was fluid. It even had like a silky-esque texture, and it just kind of, I don't know, filled my mouth. I was just like, this is just a good time. I was just like, I was vibing, to be honest. I was very
No.
much vibing with
Yeah, I think we've got it on the menu cafe right now.
Pretty big.
Yeah,
That should be our motto though.
big in the cafe.
Oh no, fill your mouth and have a good time.
Oh yeah.
I'm dying. Well, moving on to the next coffee, the Johann Vergara. Delightful.
So good.
Tell me all about it. Talk about this producer, all the above.
So we actually got it by accident.
Well, we contracted a different coffee from him. It was through Kata. Yeah, we contracted one of his other coffees, and then it arrived, and then it was past its prime. It had fallen off, but it was tasting its age. And Kata finally,
They were brilliant.
yeah, really, really, really good. Swapped it out with this other lot, which we had tried when we initially sampled it, and loved it at the time. And just on memory, we went through it, and yeah, turned out to be one of the highlights of the year for us as well.
Rosie said it was maybe her favorite espresso ever got.
Yeah.
Just so good.
Yeah, it's really tropical milk, and I mean, it's really tropical as it is, but that's filtered, but
so good. One of my favorites, and we just got rid of. That was like,
yeah, you got in just at the right time. Yeah, I think you got nearly a lot of it. So.
Wonderful. Yeah.
And this is one cool thing about what we do as well is we get such a small amount of each one that kind of whoever buys from us, there's a bit of luck involved in what you're getting. I mean, we always try and have a variety, and we go through everything so quickly. But yeah, you managed to get some.
you piped up at the right time. You had some absolute, you had some gems.
We really
now run out of 4 of the coffees that we sent to you.
Yeah. Yeah. All absolutely stunning. Yeah, no, this coffee, again, like I mentioned before, y'all's tasting notes are just remarkably spot on. You know, even with like specifically pink grapefruit, like that's like one of the best ones. And it's pretty apparent that that's in there. It was absolutely delightful. The elderflower, I'm a big fan of the tasting note elderflower, and it in general, and so just absolutely delightful to be tasting that. Yeah. And it was almost like a sticky mouthfeel. It was just really fun. Yeah, and I thought that was kind of a little unique, personally. But yeah, I don't even know if I think we've had 1 or 2 of Johan Vergara's coffees. And so, just I'm a little bit familiar with him, but not too much. Yeah, has this been a producer in which you've been able to get coffee from before as well, or yeah?
The
first lot, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we've had the Nest Lasso, which I believe they share a farm, and he's quite a well-renowned producer, and we had his Omblegon that was just, it was all sweetness, wasn't it?
Yeah, but did you try it when you were in Chicago?
That's a good question.
Because it was being served at Dayglow when you were in Chicago.
Probably. I went to Dayglow the first day, but like the Thursday, the day before Expo, for cuppings and other things. I had a couple Ombligons. I believe I got an Obligon sample from you, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, you must have done. Yeah,
yeah,
you did, yeah.
I think it literally was like the last of it that you threw in there. Because I think I saw that was on your menu when we first started chatting, and I was just like, I gotta try it.
Yeah.
Because it's very interesting. Funny enough, we've had the Obligon from Nesta Lasso from between 5 or 7 different roasters, which is just wild. Most of, it's all just very little variations in if it's a little bit more fruity or like bright fruit or darker fruit or punchy or mellow. And so it's been an absolute delight kind of being able to see that in each roaster that we've worked with. And yeah, way too tasty. Like, oh Lord.
I think it took us a little while to get to come to like get to grips with that coffee. It was a little bit rowdy. It was a little wild. It took us a few goes to get it to where somewhere we were happy with it.
Yeah.
But when we got there, it was absolutely banging. It was so good. And this new lot's unreal as well.
Let's go. Very, very excited to be tasting it. Yeah, I think we're also getting an obligón from the new, yeah, his new one soon. I don't remember which roaster, but one of them was like, we're getting him. I was like, great.
Yeah,
Couldn't be happier about. But yeah, one thing that I loved about this Johann Vergara that again harder-ish to come by, or at least for us as a multi-roaster. I don't know about you guys, but the fact that it was a Java, um, it's kind of a fun variety. We've found it to, and please tell me more from your guys' perspective. But from us, we've found the Java to have a little bit more sweetness almost than most varieties ish. I don't know. It's just always fun. I can't think of a time I've had a bad Java, so to speak. Um, I'm sure they're out there, um,
Yeah.
but nonetheless, this is an absolute delight. And even actually reading your info on the variety, I actually don't think I knew the. I mean, I knew the Java was from the island, but knowing its like genetic heritage, I actually didn't really know.
Mhm.
So that was kind of interesting. That it is, resistant to like coffee berry disease and the I don't know. That was just kind of very very neat to have. Um, yeah, from your perspective as being a multi roaster now, kind of being both a roaster as well. Do you guys even to an extent do you even look for varieties, or are you really the person or roaster who's like, we're looking for good coffee from good producers, or you
So
know
we cut all our samples blind, well, or like semi-blind. Um,
yeah.
as
We'll,
in,
we'll
as
try
in,
and get a big batch from
yeah,
a few importers at once,
yeah,
and then just try it all with an open mind.
yeah. And sometimes you like this Ombligon from Nestalasso. We knew it was in, we knew it was on the cupping table, and as soon as you find it, you know exactly what it is. There's no hiding from that. But most of the time we're cupping blind, or like semi-blind. So we never pick on producer or variety. We, I mean, I think we're quite aligned with what we like as well. What coffees we like, we tend to agree.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's yeah, only become physical a couple of times,
Mhm.
but yeah, most of the time it's just what tastes good.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
don't really care outside of that. It's just like, does this taste good?
I think most of the coffees we go for the more sort of clean, balanced. You get a lot of wash coffee. Um, yeah, not too process heavy. We get I mean, we
The coffees that we send you are like all the like weird
yeah,
high process heavy ones,
yeah.
but in general, yeah, we there's lots of wash coffees, very few like weird or like extended fermentations. We do tend to avoid those, and I think that's just personal preference.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
interesting.
so we keep an open mind and what we buy, and we got a few trusted importers that we know that aren't screwing over farmers, and there's one in particular, raw material, who take all the profits and then reinvest those into building infrastructure for producers, and everything's reinvested into the growing community.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Yeah.
We've got a very exciting black honey Gefa from a farm called Fincatellan in Mexico that we're really, really excited about.
Probably next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
Yeah,
we
we've had that
recently,
a few times a year.
yeah, a few months ago we had, it was either a Cedar or a Gesha from Fincacellin from Obadiah.
Mm.
The delight. Yeah. That
Yeah,
from,
I think they had cider.
Yeah, I think so. They've
yeah.
had some really good stuff as well.
Oh
They
yeah.
have they have uh an Ecuador as well, from the same region as the Alisal, same variety as well, that they've released recently, that Sully tried to sell me.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, but
I'm done.
we got it, mate. We've already got it.
We've got... I'm done. Well, moving on to the coffees that are a little bit crazier, so to speak.
Mhm.
The two El Placers, absolutely stunning. We basically the last few months we've had multiple iterations. Also, same thing. We started with when we used Wide Awake for our subscription back in like February or March. We had, I believe, the Cedra from Sebastian Ramirez, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong. But then, literally the next month or whenever, we also from Plot had the Geisha and the Cedra Bourbon, and it's just like, oh Lord, this is just way too good. And then recently, we even from Three Marks had the Cedra
Mhm.
from Sebastian, and it just continues to be amazing. And so when I tasted it from you guys, I was like, yeah, this is a no brainer. It's just it's one of those producers and are just coffees that it's just like anything from him is good. So you we're gonna say yes.
Yeah.
um, so it was an absolute delight to be able to taste these coffees roasted by you guys, and just the same thing. Your tasting notes are remarkably spot on. Just so tasty. Um, to have the
I think
geisha
you
and the cedra.
just read what the essential oils say and then write that down.
But yeah, how did you guys come across Sebastian and El Placer, and yeah, what turned you on to be like, yeah, we want it.
Um, so those two lots we decided on when, so he did a tour of the UK uh, with Makakuna, and he went to Plot and a few other roasteries, cafes. Yeah. And I think we were the day after Plot, and he came and we tasted about 8 to 10 of his coffees, and those two were just uh, they were on the table and they were the cleaner, more uh, vibrant, balanced
Mm.
lots, and we loved them both. And it was cool hearing him speak about coffees as well. And there were a lot of like more process heavy naturals and anaerobics on the table as well. And then interestingly, he had a few of his infused fruit infusions that it's funny, the UK market doesn't really seem to go for them. Uh, we find they taste a bit too artificial. We like to taste the actual flavor of the coffee, with help of the processing, obviously. But uh, yeah, I think in Europe they're a lot bigger.
Mhm.
A lot of people have been putting like a little sprinkling of these infused coffees
Yeah,
in
like
other
10% of
yeah
a brew. Then I'd like 2 grams into a brew just to spice up maybe an old Colombian
yeah
or
old water Colombian.
yeah.
But yeah, um, yeah, it was great having him at the cafe, and he seemed to be a bit more interested in beer than um,
You've been doing it. You've been touring. You've been touring for so long.
so yeah, we contracted those copies that night when he visited, um, and they've been great. We offered them as a double pack, um, and yeah, they're on the freezer menu at our cafe right now, and yeah,
Mm.
yeah, we've been really enjoying them, especially the gacho, just like drinking a cup of Earl Grey tea. It's
Mm.
yeah, pretty good.
Absolutely delightful. Yeah, and these coffees that you have, kind of like you mentioned, they're both a little bit on the natural underwashed side, being clean, but they're carbonic macerated. Working with that from a roaster's perspective, I mean, are you roasting these coffees a little different from other, so to speak, processes, or does it really just depend on the coffee?
I mean, we have profiles for every coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Every profile is a little bit different, and they do tend to get tweaked throughout the life. Like the Nestalasso, that was like a small, like a gentle change to something that we became really, really happy with. And obviously we start out with an idea of how we're going to roast it, but then each coffee will behave very differently, and we treat each one individually as well.
And you use previous references from similar coffees and similar processes, and because we go through so many different coffees, we have that sort of library of references that we can draw from, and that's quite good in a way.
Yeah. Lovely. And for people who they're trying these coffees, maybe it's their first time realizing or hearing the word carbonic macerated, could you kind of just in brief explain what that is doing during the fermentation?
Yeah. Well, it was initially something stole. It's been used in winemaking for like generations. It's been around for years and years and years. And it's literally just sealing coffee cherries in usually big stainless steel containers in like fermentation vessels, and then flushing those with CO2 to pump all the air out. And depending on, I mean, all the producers will be aiming for something slightly different with their processing, but the underlying intention is to prevent any aerobic fermentation, to stop aerobic microbes, any mold or odd bacteria growth, and it helps promote anaerobic fermentation. So you have like some like lactobacillus growth is a big one in PM, carbonic maceration, and other bugs.
Yeah.
But then the extent of which they use carbonic maceration and the impact that it eventually has on the cup, I think varies quite massively from producer to producer. Like I think this Sidra, you definitely get a bit of ferment from it, but it's on the more gentle side. Whereas you can have like huge, like week-long carbonic macerations, big fermentations, and that has a far bigger impact on the final cup.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, it's not often that we have, I mean, for the most part, carbonic macerated coffees, and so anytime it is, I mean, even though I've worked in coffee for years, I feel like anytime it comes to processing that's not, a natural or a semi-washed or honey or, the basic ones, I like read about it and I almost forget about what it does immediately. I have to like reread it so many times. And so things like this, it's very interesting because yeah, there's just a lot going on in the fermentation. And it's like, okay, like, trying to help myself remember, what's the goal, just not having an aerobic fermentation. And so it's just a very interesting thing that it does to the fermentation, which is very interesting.
Yeah, sure. It's just another tool for producers to control what they want from their processing.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got to say, I loved both so much. It was really hard for me to even have a favorite between the two. Honestly,
you don't have to.
I don't think yeah,
We
man.
blended them together here in the roastery. It tasted great as well.
Oh,
No.
that's a great idea. Yeah, I'm dying. Yeah, again, the tasting notes are amazing. I absolutely loved the geisha. It was just so, oh man, just almost creamy. Um, those notes spot on: tangerine, honey, that Earl Grey, like you mentioned, like a tea that you're just drinking. I would even throw in there some like basil and or peppermint, and like white peach tea as it cools. It was just so so enjoyable, and it just went from one flavor to the next, just like fluid, and it was just like going back and forth. And I was like, "This is it's too good." I was just literally so happy with it. Um, that and the sea dry both did like with a commandante I ground on 13 clicks, and coming out at 3:30, just so delicious. I was just like, I just love that I don't have to do a single thing with this. Um, and even the like Cedra, like I would throw in there some like juicy pear. Oh my God, it was so good. Oh Lord, I I I like want to say they're like the best Sebastian Ramirez coffees I've had, but it's always hard because it's like I haven't had the other ones for a while, so it's like, oh man, it's always hard to say which
I'm gonna
one
clip that and it's genuine.
was just absolutely a delight to have his coffees again. I was just so happy with them and very thankful you guys had him. And were able to just represent his coffee so well. It was an absolute delight to find roasters like you who are just doing such a good job with that. But yeah, the last coffee, the El Alisal.
Mhm.
Oh, oof. Oh man, I genuinely was my favorite coffee of the five personally. As time has gone on, I've become a big fan of the varietal Tipica Mejorado, or however you say it. I got to actually, I know it isn't from LISL, but I got to meet, oh Lord, Pepe Hijon and his son at SEA, and he was kind of saying, actually Jose, his son, was talking to me and kind of saying that they're wanting to make Tipica Mejorado like, Ecuador's like big variety that's really the top quality. And I was like, wow, that's like actually really cool. I kind of didn't really know the history of the varietal, and kind of we've recently had no Alisal from Manhattan, and it was an absolute delight. And so, when you were like, oh yeah, we've got this, this Ecuador that's really tasty, I was like, do tell. Um, so, kind of same question, how did you come across this coffee, and what was your guys' reaction to tasting it for the first time? And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we got it through Makakuna, who we've worked with before. We requested about
Same importer as Sebastian Ramirez.
yeah,
So it's
who organised that tour of the UK with
same people.
But yeah, they're from Ecuador, and they import predominantly Ecuadorian coffee into the European market. They used to be based in Bristol, but now they've moved to Italy. But yeah, we tried about 10, 12 of various lots from their offering, and that one just sort of stood out. And we just took a punt on it and went on it. And then after we got it delivered, as we got it delivered, we found out it got its place in the Taza de Dora. Is that how you said? Taza de Dora?
Yeah.
No, I didn't. the and yeah, it's just it was nice to hear that sort of after we've already contracted it. And yeah, it's been
great.
Yeah, only had 35 kilos of it. So yeah, uh, but yeah, I love the way it tastes as it cools down. I had a cup that was completely cold this morning because I'd been looking after kids and forgotten about it, and came back to it, and it was absolutely delicious cold.
Yeah, absolutely delicious coffee. Like you said, this whole time I've been sipping on it, and it's just even cold, it's delicious. Like you said, absolutely a delightful coffee. It was very nice to have a coffee that's also, I don't know, a natural process, but it just tastes very clean. In my mind, it would be a juicy wash process that I probably would have just thought it would be. And yeah, it is an absolute delight. And yeah, knowing that this farm, well, I think it's the Yaramil family or something along those lines, that they've done really good in the Taza Dorado before, and it was just great to hear. Just wonderful farmers, just absolutely kicking butt and just doing a great job. at what they do. Yeah. It literally, again, tasting notes are spot on. It is just so, this coffee I loved the most because it was just so clean and floral and light. And in my mind, it was just something I could drink every day, all day, but was like a nicer coffee. Because sometimes we'll get coffees that are a little bit intense, and I'm unsure if I would want to drink it every day. And this was a coffee in which I was just like, if I were to pick one, this is it. This is every day. I'm getting up in the morning. I'm sitting on my patio. I'm reading my book, and I'm drinking this coffee, and I'm just so happy.
One of the main criteria that we do look for when we're upping new samples is
Drinkability.
smashability.
Yeah.
Smashability is how many cups can you smash back to back, and that has a shockingly high weighting on what we order. So it's very rare. We do quite rarely get in coffees that we're just like, I'd have one and that'd be enough. I think the Omblegon was definitely one of those coffees. Delicious, but like I wouldn't want more than one cup of that. I think the Kerinchi's on that line as well.
Yeah.
But then the others like Joan Vergara, the Alisal, and the Alcazars, I could drink those nonstop.
Yeah. I actually a day or two ago, whenever the coffees came in, I was I was telling my staff that fact that you had said that like if a coffee's smashable or not. And they were like, that is so ridiculous. And I was like, yep, and I love it. And they're like, that's pretty sweet. It's a random fact like that get the staff at Comet just like laughing. So thank you for that fun fact. Just to make all of our days.
That's
So
a great thing like that across the globe.
we might even put that into what we think now if we're cupping coffees. Thank you.
I'd smash that.
Yeah. Done.
Would we smash that? Yeah, that's gonna be our next thing. So, being a roastery that's also a multi-roaster, I've now become to see that other multi-roasters are starting to do this, where they're becoming roasters. You know, I look at Kumquat, I look at Dayglow. I think there's one or two others in Europe that I was looking at, and I don't remember what they are. But when you think about that, I mean, do you guys think that, you know, you started doing this and other people are following you in your steps, or, you know, was this a way, you know, obviously you started roasting during the pandemic, but like Tim had kind of mentioned previously, this is kind of giving you guys a better understanding of all the roasters that you work with, and empathy towards them in regards to dealing with everything. And so in terms of looking at the coffee industry as a whole from these two standpoints now, like what things do you now feel like you're able to glean from and or give to other people like myself, of being like, wow, like, just so you know, we now understand this, and we're very happy to be able to see both sides, so to speak.
I mean, I think you've just kind of covered it. Like it's covered it pretty well. It's just nice to see both sides of it. And
I think, yeah, also because we started off with being a multi-roaster and having so many different coffees coming through the cafe, and we just we committed to that model and had to keep it on going. Well, partly because we love it as well, but yeah, kept on going when we're roasting. We've adopted that approach to our roasting as well, and it's also really nice to be able to support other roasters and keep on buying from them as you see people transition from being a multi-roaster to roasting their own, and then they just do all their own coffee, which is a little bit of a shame, I think, but I get it.
But again, financially makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I'm done.
So we're not proud of
Yeah.
I think it just keeps things interesting as well. It keeps things interesting for us, keeps things interesting for everyone who works in the shop and all our customers as well.
Yeah, because if you come once a week to FCP and have one of each coffee on the menu. We've had 4 coffees that week, 200 coffees a year. Yeah, that's a lot of different coffees, and even if you're not trying to, you taste sort of the best of what's on offer from all around the world. And, yeah,
regional styles as well, from like Scandinavia, and we find like the States have quite a specific style in roasting as well in general, and it's just quite interesting to see the trends around the world.
Yeah, it is very interesting, and just yesterday or 2 days ago, I was at Comet and someone came in and they were just like, "Oh, you have quite an international presence. Do you not like U.S. roasters?" And it's like, no, it's not that we don't like U.S. roasters, but it is interesting that our taste buds, we tend to prefer roast profiles from other countries, almost, so to speak. It's obviously very difficult because the American roast profile tends to be darker than we would prefer, to be like on a plane. But obviously we find European roasters or Asian roasters or roasters in Australia that do also tend to do darker, and so it's just finding that balance. And yeah.
Compared to like Scandinavian roasts, and like you were saying, like Asian roasters, like uh, uh who was it, like Apollon's Gold and stuff.
oh, yeah.
Like we have pretty substantial, like relatively well developed coffee. I mean, it's not darkly roasted at all, but like it's like the well developed. But like compared to like true Scandi style coffee, ours is quite well developed still. But I think we favor that, like a little bit more richness, a little bit more sweetness and texture.
Trying to get that balance right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in FCP's current state, what is y'all's, I don't know, not big goal, but what are y'all
Bigger
kind of
roaster. Buy a bigger roaster. That's our goal. It's our one and only goal at the moment.
And it will be interesting once we get this bigger roaster, because it's a much bigger roaster for us, but it's still, in terms of roaster size, it's just very small.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be 5 times the capacity of what we've currently got. And it'd be interesting to keep up our model of buying lots of different copies, because we'll be going through copies quicker, and maybe we'll just be on turbo.
Ordering more coffee.
Sorry.
But yeah, it's been a little bit challenging as well, because there's been loads of like shipping delays and all the stuff happening in Gaza, and that affecting everything coming from Africa. And it's been, and the way we buy is all on spot, so pretty much all on spot. So it can be challenging to find all the coffee we need. But yeah,
we'll get them.
Yeah, we'll find a way.
Well, both of you combined, you have so many years of experience in the specialty coffee industry. When you look at other people or companies within the industry as a whole, who are the people who continue to inspire you in your work?
I think it's people who are doing, I mean, one of the big ones is Skylark. They're doing really great stuff. Their transparency reports every year are phenomenal. And I think that's like everyone talking about like transparency in specialty coffee, like everyone claiming to be transparent should be doing it like Skylark do it. Their reports are brilliant.
And you get a question why you're doing it, because if you're doing it just to have a sort of marketing piece, then you're not really doing it for the right reasons. We try and, as we're just open about prices we pay for everything, and try and do it in terms that people understand, right? Which is how much we paid for the coffee before we roasted it. Sometimes there's issues with sharing prices that the farmer got, because might not have consent for sharing that, and it might cause problems for them to sell their coffees at different prices and stuff. But yeah, we try to be transparent on our end, and we're not doing it for to make more money or to because we don't. but yeah, it's, I think people like Christopher Ferran as well. He's doing some great work with his in-depth blog posts and his time at Origin, and so
very insightful and very like, he always seems to be siding on, I don't know, like the right side of things. There are lots of, we won't name names, but there are lots of big names in the coffee industry that do it for ego and status, and they say lots of wild things about how producers should work and farmers should conduct their business. But they're speaking from their $1 million cafe that sipping like a 25-pound cup of coffee, like like I don't feel like they have a right to dictate anything that goes on in producing countries. And then I guess the other people, talking about people who take themselves too seriously, I feel like the other people that I look up to in the industry are just people who do it for the love of it, do it like, and they're like unapologetically them. There's another a really great Bristol roaster called Radical, lady called Kat. She's brilliant, but like her cafe and roastery are just like so unapologetically her, and it's brilliant. It's really, really great, and her coffee's fantastic. And then someone like Dark Arts, they just like do weird stuff. I mean, it's worked out very well for them, but like they just do like kind of mad stuff, but it's definitely just like, it's just them. They're just having fun with it, and I like that.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, those are some great names. Yeah, and people who are doing a great job in the industry who I continue to look up to are really the people who keep me going. Yeah. Well, that's an absolute delight. Yeah. So in terms of just looking at the industry as a whole, you're naming some wonderful people and companies who, like you said, they're in really good ways. They're being clear about what's going on, and they're being very kind and patient with, I don't know, situations in the industry. You mentioned Christopher Farron and Skylark, I think, are great examples. When you think of where the industry is going as a whole, maybe in Great Britain or in the West, is there something that you are hoping for? Whether it's like you said, more companies to be transparent, or is there something
That's a Starbucks. That'd be great for us. Yeah, if Starbucks and Costa went bankrupt, that'd be brilliant.
with Starbucks? What?
If they went bankrupt, that would be brilliant for us. Yeah, that'd be great. We'd probably make a bit more money then. I don't know. I think specialty coffee is still a fair way behind behind other like niche foodstuffs. Like you have like craft beer bars and wine bars. But there are very few places, and we're very lucky that we are one of those places in UK that just do coffee. Like most places, a lot of places rely on food and other stuff, or like very high volume to keep their doors open. And I think, yeah, we're lucky that we have a model that works for us to just focus on coffee. But that's where we put all our effort. Hopefully, I'd like to see a bit more of that people could be a bit more focused on just what they want to do. I bet every barista you talk to does not want to be making a cheese toasty.
This is very true. This is very true. I love it. Well, at this time, that kind of answers all of my questions, and just kind of wanting to just chat about the coffees and about you guys. But, you know, so we have about 40 or so subscribers who get to, watch this video and as well as some other people who, also just kind of hop on our website just to be like, oh, who are the roasters that, they're using for the subscription. So, so to say, is there anything else that you would like to add or, just to kind of, say to anyone? Yeah.
I think we're just really happy to have our coffee, well, the coffee that we roasted over there with you guys in a different part of the world. And it's really exciting, and we're really excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's quite easy to get caught up in Bristol, like because we're a very small roaster in a very small cafe. It's sometimes quite, I don't know, it's quite humbling to see it actually get shipped to like the other side of the world, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I
funny too.
mean, we're glad it got to you as well. I mean, we had some issues with customs, but
Yeah,
yeah.
it happens all the time, unfortunately. We also have, I think, 5 to 7 people who are subscribed, and they're in different parts in the US. And so it's kind of fun that, you've got coffees going to like you a subscriber in Utah, a subscriber in California, I think Wisconsin, there's one or two other states. Yeah. There's like, so oddly enough, not only is it going to be, obviously people here in St. Louis, but you just got some very interesting people in random places in the US who are just like, was just like, yeah, we want to hop on board. And so it's exciting for me to be able to do that. And yeah, we got a kilo of the Johann Vergara just to throw and pour over. So I'm pretty stoked about that, to be honest. um, that's it. We're gonna have fun with that. It will be a wonderful time, and we always get people who, are like, on our pour over menu. We have obviously, which roaster it's from, and we, have 3 approachables and like 3 exotic coffees, and so we've got people kind of like squinting their eyes, like, oh, like who's this roaster, and it's always a great opportunity for us to be like, hey, it's from this really great roaster that we love, and so I'm very glad that we have the ability to also just throw in some coffee that we can just put on pour over and be like, we love these guys, yeah, I can't thank you all enough. It's been an absolute pleasure, just chatting with you too. And yeah, Tim, you were one of those conversations on the phone where it was like a no brainer, to just work with you guys. Yeah. So yeah, I can't thank you all enough. The coffee tastes amazing. I already have been writing down what it looks like to possibly work with you guys next year and how we can do that more. And so we
Yeah,
will
that'd be awesome.
definitely stay in touch. Yeah, I'm
For
pretty
sure.
stoked.
I'll let you know when some interesting stuff lands as well.
Yeah, let's go.
I'll
Let's
keep
go.
you in the loop.
Come on.
For sure. Thanks very much, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you too. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you for all your work and your time. I love it.
Yeah, perfect.
Thanks
Thanks
for
very
getting our
much.
coffee as well.
Yeah, thanks for buying our coffee.
I
Cheers.
love it. Cheers. Have a great day.
Thanks,
Bye.
mate. See you later.
Bye.